Greetings, programs and users. It is I, John Patrick, the Master Control Program, once again live from the Edit Suite. Here we have part 2 of our Star Wars Holiday Special. Sorry, it took me a couple extra weeks to get it to you. It's the holidays, so we're gonna jump right back into the conversation. Enjoy.
Yeah,
I just don't understand how a company can spend literally billions of dollars and then be like, all right, let's do this other billion-dollar franchise, and not come up with a strategy for the whole thing. They should have Lord of the Rings that
So,
shit. They should have been like, hey, let's do all of them at once, or at least have three solid scripts.
Here's the thing. What you just said, that we should have a cohesive vision, that is a very, very, very new concept in Hollywood. Hollywood is a very old machine, and there are still a lot of very old guys with preconceived notions of how Hollywood should run, and it is not agile. What happened to Warner Brothers is old Hollywood. You have the people who make the movie, the director, the producer, and all that, and then you have the studio. And the director and the producer make their movie, and then the studio goes, no, I don't think this is going to work. We're going to remake your movie. And that is exactly what happened at Warner Brothers, because the old Hollywood mindset took over of each movie is an individual thing. Each movie is not a set piece. Each movie is a movie, and all we have to worry about is making this movie profitable. Disney and Star Wars, or Disney and Marvel, broke that mold. They showed the new way that, like, hey, instead, let's try making this cohesive narrative, and it is anathema to how Hollywood's operated for the last 100 years. It worked for Marvel for so long, but I think now Marvel's kind of, I don't know how if I'd say they lost their vision, but I think when, like, COVID, it just threw a big enough monkey wrench in that it's like they were trying to make everything work during COVID, but they couldn't. And that's why we got the second stage of Marvel kind of felt like it was falling on its face.
But Disney they rushed the movies because to create that whole cohesive narrative and everything, that takes longer time, and they didn't have the time for that. They're like,
because even with COVID, they're still beholden to their shareholders that, okay, there's going to be 3 Marvel movies this year, and we expect all of these Marvel movies to make at least $750 million of gross profit, and the profits of our company are based, or the projection profits of our company are based on it.
I got that, but we're talking about Star Wars, and then that's where Marvel took that. Disney took that knowledge about Marvel, and they applied that cohesiveness to the television shows, which is why The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, these shows are all tying into one another. They're all telling a collective grand story, which is going to lead up to a final point of some kind. And they've made no secret about that. The offshoot shows like Andor and Kenobi were the ones that are outside of that. But even this, they're taking the Star Wars and they're putting it back into a long arcing cohesive story, which, even the last 3 movies were attempting to do that. But with it being disjointed the way it was, it just didn't hold seamlessly. Whereas with the streaming shows, the Star Wars ones, they're following more to that kind of thing because they have more time to do it. Like when one show is being shown, they're filming another one, and so forth and so on. So it just works better there. And again, it goes back to the people that are running it and the passion that they have for the property that they're working with. So, I mean, if they want to do with Star Wars what they did with Marvel, they're starting to do it now. They're finally learning their lesson. But as far as the dark writing and stuff, sure, bring it. Just make sure it's good. Don't be like DC just to be these Warner Brother movies to be dark just for the sake of being dark.
Because I mean, we have to remember that at the end of the day, it isn't about making Star Wars shows that we like. It's about generating profit for Disney. The reason they brought Iger back was because Bob What's-His-Name was
Chapek.
Bob Chapek was essentially hiding the fact that Disney Plus was hemorrhaging money to the point where he started, we're going to premiere this show on the Disney Channel and premiere it there, but it'll run on Disney Plus, because then he put that show's production budget on the Disney Channel ledger instead of the Disney Plus ledger to hide how much Disney Plus was losing money. So something's going to have to happen because Disney is not going to let Disney Plus exist hemorrhaging money if it's not making a profit. It doesn't matter how compelling the stories they're telling are. If it isn't making money, Disney's going to cut it.
Well, they've already announced some of what they're going to do. You're seeing it already with a whole lot of the shows that were supposed to be coming. A few of them have been canceled on Disney Plus. Like Armor Wars is now going to be a movie instead of a show. They're taking with the success of Werewolf by Night. They went, wait a minute, maybe we don't need to do a 9-episode show. Maybe we can tell a story in 3 episodes or something like that.
And that's something I would love to see Star Wars do too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
which they did with Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was only 6 episodes or something like that.
It was not a lot. It was pretty short.
Yeah,
it was 6.
Like Andor, how they're doing what they're doing with Andor, and the fact that it's the like, even that show did a really good job with a cheap budget. I mean, it looked beautiful. It looked the way Star Wars should look. And if that's the case, fine, then go ahead and do it that way. But Marvel has they've taken a lot of the shows and maybe they're going to condense them down. Some of the stuff they're going to date, like the X-Men, was it 97? That's coming back. They're bringing that cartoon back. Cartoons don't cost as much to make as like television shows.
Right.
So the ideas that they're going to use to cut corners down the road don't really bother me, because how many times have we watched, like with the Marvel shows, how many times have we watched it? Well, wow, this would have been a better series if it was edited by like 2 episodes, or the She-Hulk show,
That's my complaint with The Last Jedi. It's like, I could edit out about an hour of this movie and make it a better movie. Like, not even so much for content, but there's just so much extra stuff that if you just cut it out,
wasted plot time.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could cut all that out and it'd still tell the same narrative. It would just tell it in a more speedy way.
All the references to Finn possibly being a Jedi, don't even bother putting them in there, because they screwed him over as a character, so they could get rid of that. A lot of the Casino Planet stuff could have been changed.
The actor who played that character also was very pissed about that too.
Mm-hmm.
He flat out said, like, after the first movie, they just didn't know what to do with Finn.
Yeah.
No, they didn't. They really didn't. It sucks because they were hinting very strongly before that first movie came out that he would, like, I remember he went to some kind of a movie ceremony and he was wearing a black leather glove on his right hand. Everybody was like, Luke Skywalker, blah, blah. Like, they were dropping these little hints here and there that he was going to be the Jedi. And then, nope, surprise, it's not, And he didn't know that.
I thought that worked for the first movie, but as the story progressed, I just wanted him to be something a little more important to the story.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that stuff could have been, they could have edited a lot of that stuff down.
He should have been the Han Solo of the new trilogy. That's what he started out as in The Force Awakens, is like he was the Han Solo. He was the guy who was pointing out the absurdity of the Star Wars universe as he existed in the Star Wars universe. And it just felt like they had it great in The Force Awakens, and then they just shit the bed with him.
Pretty much. So what Disney's going to do is they're going to cut where they can in shows, which I'm fine with as long as it doesn't do so at the cost of the story. But they have announced that they've got Vision's got his show coming out, Vision Quest. So they're giving him a show. They're giving Scarlet Witch another show. Harkness, I don't know why they're giving her a show, but she's got a show coming. Again, it's like, this better be good.
That's what I'm looking forward to the most.
I'm looking forward to it out of curiosity. because she's got a weird history in the comic books.
Her version of the comics, I'm sure, is not even going to be close to what we get. But
Man,
I just think they got a fantastic actress.
I don't see her being the nanny of the Fantastic Four, but that's all in its birthing phase, so it still could be possible. They could do it in some way. Anyways.
I just want Ghost Rider. I just want the Midnight Suns universe. Like, we've already had the Darkhold. Yep. Give me Johnny Blaze. Give me Dan Ketch.
I feel like we're getting so close to it, too.
And Keanu Reeves is basically begging to be in Marvel. And there really...
or Star Wars.
Yeah, and there really isn't anybody who is more qualified to be Ghost Rider than Keanu Reeves.
Isn't he getting a little long in the tooth for the role, though?
So that's the
thing.
It
depends on what version of Johnny Blaze you go with. If you go with, like, if you play him as, all right, he's a young kid who just became Ghost Rider, that's fine. You want a young actor. But my favorite version of Johnny Blaze in the comics was actually the 90s version of him.
Yeah, when Johnny Blaze was not the Ghost Rider, when he was just Johnny Blaze, and with the Hellfire shotgun and the Hellfire motorcycle. The Midnight the Midnight Suns Johnny Blaze. Like, that is perfect for Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. That's another show though, like that a Ghost Rider show on Disney Plus might only require like 3 or 4 episodes.
Keep in mind, it also almost happened. When the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did, it was towards
I remember him. I did not want to like that guy, but I did. I ended up liking him.
Well, it actually had a lot of good feedback from people, and that was another one of those announcements that never happened. They were going to do a spinoff of that version of it.
They were going to give him basically his own show.
Yeah.
Is it Jaime Reyes, or am I mixing his name up with the Blue Beetle?
Robbie Reyes.
Robbie Reyes. Yeah, okay. I was going to say it's Reyes something.
Anyways, he was all on board for doing it, and then they just, Marvel kind of quietly canceled it because I don't remember what service was gonna be. It wasn't gonna be Netflix, I don't think.
So
they kind of just quietly canceled. Like, they were gonna do like New Warriors on like Freeform or something, and then at one point
because there was the Cloak and Dagger series was on Freeform,
which was decent. I like that.
Yeah, and then the Runaways show, and everything kind of just disappeared overnight.
So as they were ramping up to Disney Plus, you saw everything start to quietly come back under the back home to Disney. So that was when the Netflix shows announced they weren't renewing Disney wasn't renewing their contract with Netflix. That's when with Freeform, I don't even think Freeform still exists as its own service, because even then, Freeform was an offshoot of Hulu. So it was still under the ABC parent company. Because that's why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was on ABC, was because ABC was owned by Disney. So it was, and that was right when they ended the run of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., was when they were bringing all the Marvel properties under the Disney Plus umbrella.
Hello?
Which was kind of a shame, because a couple of those I liked quite a bit.
I did like Cloak and Dagger. Me and the wife liked that show a lot.
Yep.
If they need to bring it back and maybe give it some better, more mature writing, because it was on Freeform, so it was written for the younger audience.
I was gonna say it was the equivalent of the before it was the CW, it was something else, but back when it was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dawson's Creek, and all those shows.
WB?
Was it the WB?
No, it was on Freeform. Cloak and Dagger was on Freeform.
Yes, I know, but
it was about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the vibe they were going for, where it's like, hey, we're going to make these shows, but we're going to make them for like the teenage crowd and have them all in one programming block.
That they should have ported that show over, but I don't know. I mean, they could do something with those characters. Like, I could see those characters teaming up with Spider-Man or Daredevil at some point, like in the comic books.
Moon Knight.
Oh, don't preach to me about Moon Knight. I waited so long for that show to come out.
And it was good. I loved it.
Oh, I loved it.
I absolutely loved it. And so far, still no season 2 announcement, have we?
That's true. Well,
so
with what's going on right now,
here and there, but nothing official.
So it's a question of Oscar Isaac's contracts are officially done, And after the whole Star Wars debacle, he was really soured on Disney. So he had said in interviews he wasn't going to go back to Disney. But it's the same thing with Johnny Depp and Pirates of the Caribbean 5. When Disney shows up at your house with a literal dump truck full of money, it changes people's tune. So Oscar Isaac says he's done, he's not doing anything else with Disney, but, you know, if they show up at his house with a dump truck full of money, we could get Moon Knight Season 2.
Well, you'll also notice that on Moon Knight, he was a producer of that show as well.
Same thing with Diego Luna on Andor. He was an executive producer on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Which I wish they would do more of. You know, letting the actors who are passionate about the characters have a say in the story.
Exactly.
Wanting to circle back to Andor, I did want to say a quick theory because I know Rose seems to be. You sound like you're in the pro-Luthen being Jedi camp or some kind, aren't you?
Well, I'll give you my theory. Okay. I don't know for certain that he was a Jedi, but I'm pretty sure based on a lot of different things. There is the obvious one right off the bat that everybody is still debating about, the lightsaber, walking cane, hidden knife thing. That I'm like, okay, it's off. And they're like, well, he can't be a Jedi. It's a walking stick and a knife. It's like, well, you can't take a lightsaber and hollow out everything inside of it. You know, if he'd be keeping it for sentimental reasons. Also, he has a kyber crystal. Moving on from there, the amount of artifacts, both Jedi and Sith related, that are in the background of his shop. Moving on from there, the one that really sold me pretty good on it, though, was the speech that he gave to the operative when they were doing the whole elevator scene. And he's like, well, what have you lost? And he's naming all this stuff off. He's like, 15 years ago, I came to an equation. And if the timeline and the math, this show takes place 15 years after the Revenge of the Sith. So I'm like, all right, that checks out. And he starts going and naming all these stuff off. And he's like, I talked to ghosts. Well, okay, so we know that Jedi can come back in ghost form. So there's the possibility there. I have to use the tactics of my enemies against them. All of the stuff he's naming off are things that a former Jedi would have lost. So all the things that he's going into are things that a Jedi would have lost. So my theory is that he is. Then there's also a theory out there that he may be a palace, one of the Jedi Temple Guard, because the Jedi Temple Guard, even the Jedi Temple Guard didn't know who each other were. Even the Jedi at the temple didn't know what they were, because that was their thing. They always wore those masks, and when they weren't wearing the masks, nobody knew if they were Jedi or not. So that, I don't know if I agree with that or not, just because there's one scene where there's the Jedi Temple Guard helmet in the background. I don't know if I'll go along with that, but I do think that there is something going on with him once being a Jedi and not being a Jedi anymore. Because there's also the theory that his girl that works with him in the shop might have been his former apprentice. Now, I'll go a step further, and I'll say that I think he's a former Jedi that is not only not a Jedi anymore because he can't be a Jedi, but he's also leaning more and more towards the dark side, because there are all these weird scene parallels, like when he's exiting the ship and he pulls his cloak over his head. It mirrors the way that Darth Maul walked out of his ship when they show him. It mirrors, like, there's certain scenes that are shot in certain ways when they're shooting how they introduce Sith or dark side Force characters or whatever in all the other Star Wars shows. So they're kind of flaunting all of this stuff right in your face, but they're doing a really good job of not coming out and telling you anything at all about exactly what it is or, you know, all of that stuff. There's just a whole bunch of hints there, but they're very clever in how they do it also. It's like, well, yeah, he's a junk shop dealer, a collector. Of course he would come across these kinds of things, some kind of a kyber crystal and stuff like that. But it doesn't... like, as the show goes on, you can watch him getting darker and darker. Like, there's one episode he says, oh, no, more people need to die. More needs to happen to get these people onto the revolution. And he kind of says it like sneering and sniveling. Also, how do Sith operate? Well, how does Sidious operate? They always operate in the shadows, in the background, pulling strings and manipulating things. And that is exactly what he does. He has one character that he plays that runs the antique shop. He always, like, there was a scene where he stops and looks in the mirror and he's trying to get himself into character. And then he has this other character, which is the one that he's very calculating and manipulative, and he's pulling strings with people, and he's trying to put things against each other to make this revolution happen. So he's becoming this darker person, which is things like doing things that Jedi would not do. And then there was the final episode where the two fucking red lightsabers shoot out the TIE fighters in half. Never mind the fact that his ship is fully decked out to be able to escape a situation like this. Big shout outs also to the original Star Destroyer design being in that episode, because the one with the 3 dishes, that was what the original artist.
I heard about
that was one of the original concept drawings of a Star Destroyer. And I believe there was even a concept model made of that one.
Yeah, excellent. Little things like that I really like too. Like the fact that there's little things in the background that are paying trivia and paying homage to the things that came before it. That right there, that's one of those things that tells me these people that are doing this are actually passionate about what they're doing. But these are all just my theories. I do believe he's a Jedi or a fallen Jedi of some kind.
I just don't. It doesn't feel right to me. I just don't see Gilroy going in that direction. I do see him as the kind of person who would throw these hints out there just to mislead people. And back to the lightsaber, a lot of people think it is. One of the things I heard on a different podcast is, so when they do these things, they also do a version for the visually impaired, where they actually descriptive audio, I think is a term for it. And in that very scene, in that moment, it says it's like his collapsible walking stick. So I little things like that are kind of making me think,
I get that, but if you're blind and you have no visual concept of what a lightsaber is, how would you describe that? His former lightsaber now converted to walking stick. I just little things like that. I just don't see it. Now, what I could see back to a possible lightsaber, I could almost see that being a lightsaber only because he is a collector. I think that it's going to be more of I think that, pre-Empire, he may have had some sort of a connection to the Jedi. Maybe he interacted with them again,
on occasion.
This is what I go back to with smart writing. They're leaving that door there.
Yeah.
To be like, that's the escape route. And neither of them is wrong, but I'm going to be really bummed if he's not by the end, because it's like, quit being a cock tease. He either is or he isn't. If he's not, get it out of the way.
I'm going to counterpoint Rojan. If he turns out to be a Jedi, I think that is the biggest piece of bullshit hack writing, and I will lose every ounce of respect I have for this show if it turns out that he's a Jedi.
His
that
drive
is
to
the
do what he's
dumbest. Like, it just makes no sense.
Especially for a story that's going out of the way of trying to be a Star Wars story that is not revolved around the Jedi.
Yeah.
It's not revolved.
I think the much more likely possibility is we will find out he was either a member of the Separatist Army or he was a member of the Republic Army, and basically either left in disgust or was drummed out of the service as the Empire, the Republic became the New Order. We've already seen one of the Clone Wars characters sitting on the ISB Council, and I forget. I forget his name, but I
can't remember his name either.
Yeah, because he's actually, it was a character from A New Hope. One, like in that conference room scene on the Death Star, there's a guy in a white uniform, and they basically took that character, wrote him into Clone Wars, and gave the arc of how he got from being a Republic officer to being a pro-Imperial officer. And he's one of the ISB higher-ups in that system. And I
think he's in Rebels too.
Yeah, I believe he is in Rebels too. And I think that we're going to see where Luthen has some ties to the Republic Army. And that's why he has the skill set he has. That's why he has the cell mentality. Maybe he was a Republic Army intelligence officer. And that would completely explain why he became the way he is, because all the ideals he stood for in the Republic were betrayed when the Republic became the Empire. And I think that's the more compelling story than he's a Jedi. I think Jedi is the easiest way to go, and like I
Well,
said,
he's not now. He's a former Jedi.
yeah. Now, there is no
I
former
just don't
Jedi.
see it.
You are a Jedi. It is literally in your DNA who you are. You are a Jedi. The only way you are not a Jedi is if you become Sith.
That's not true. That is not true. There are many different. Well, this is a debate for another time. But there are many different Force users that are not Sith. The witches are a great example. They're not Sith. They're just
witches of
dark side
Dathomir.
Force users.
But
Or the
they're
Bendu,
also
Yeah.
not Jedi.
Yeah, the Bendu is well. The Bendu are more gray.
Again,
Yeah, but they're
they
not
are
Sith
their
either.
own
You just said they
thing.
either become Jedi or Sith.
Well, if you
But then
become
you also have the Guardians of the Will, who were not Jedi, but they were also Force sensitive as well. The Guardians of the Will.
the Jedi are their own unique religion, and it's like when you're a Jet all the way. When you're a Jedi all the way until you start playing for the other team.
But what about Ahsoka Tano? She's no Jedi. She says it like 10 times.
But was she even a Jedi to begin with? She was a Padawan.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to be real
Padawan's
honest.
still a Jedi.
I'm going to be real honest. I still have not watched much of any Clone Wars.
Just watch the Ahsoka shows, really. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all that really matters.
And I think I've only seen like the first season of Rebels.
Wow, man, are
Yeah.
you missing? There's a whole lot of good Star Wars.
You are really missing some of the best Star Wars that's ever existed.
It's one of those. It's one of those where it's like the first seasons of both those shows were so kind of meh that it never enticed me enough.
That's kind of become the Star Wars cartoon
Trope.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their first seasons are always like they're trying to find their footing. They're trying to kind of decide what they want to be, and then they become a thing.
Yeah. Like as soon as I saw the little like the main character from Rebels having the ion slingshot, then I was like, oh, that's so dumb. I don't know. I am definitely in the anti-Luthen Rails is a Jedi camp.
Yeah, I think I'm right with you. I would if it did happen, I'm sure I'd be all for it. I'm sure I would jump up off my seat and like, fuck yeah, lightsaber time. But I just for the story, it just does not make sense.
Oh man, and I just remembered one other thing when we were talking about the mature themes of this show, and talking about Luthen made me remember like, oh yeah, can we talk about Mon Mothma like force marrying her 13-year-old daughter to cover up her questionable banking habits?
Yeah, the money.
Yeah.
That's another mature aspect
daughter's
of the
part
show.
of some weird cult or something. I couldn't quite figure that
So
out.
that's a cool thing. Like outside of even just Star Wars, I'm a student of history, and one of the things you will always find in history is that the rise of fascism leads to a rise in like good old days mentality, like resurgent of fundamentalism. It's the same thing you see here in the U.S. with like the rise of the Republican Party and the rise of the Christian right and all that. And then it was in Germany with the rise of the Nazis. It was the rise of we have to get back to our roots, get back to a pure Germany. So with the rise of the empire in Chandril, she was part of this old cult. And like they even mentioned that she found I believe they even called him a priest who taught her the chant, who taught her the braid. And so it's going back to this with fascism accompanies a return to fundamentalism. So you saw that she was returning to fundamentalism under her mother's rule, or like kind of even in rebellion to her mother. And as somebody who has a 13-year-old daughter, I'm well aware of the concept of rebellion against an authority figure.
Yes. I can understand it too.
But again, I'll say one last thing. This just goes to show you the writing of the show and what we think about it. The fact that we're having this long debate about this, whereas we don't do that with any of the other Star Wars shows, you know?
No.
So
Like,
if this is
I
the future of Star
enjoyed-
Wars, I'm on.
I enjoyed Boba Fett, but I wasn't left with as many
I mean,
questions.
let's be
wasn't
real.
Left with as many, desires for the next step.
Let's be real honest. Boba Fett was just Mandalorian season 2.5.
Pretty much.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. You could have totally told this story in episodes of Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's like Mandalorian,
Yeah.
the side quest. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, it
I
wasn't
love-
great, but it wasn't bad. But
I love
It
them
was
bringing
fun.
back
I had
Boba
a good
Fett,
time.
and I'm a little sad because when they showed Boba Fett in that first episode of The Mandalorian, and he was a fucking badass, and then went to the Boba Fett show, and we never got to see him be that badass ever again. It's like he spent most of the show just getting his ass kicked.
I mean, riding in on top of a Rancor, I don't know how you could say that's not the badass thing.
Well, yeah.
yeah, but that kind of felt like it was jump the shark. We need to put this in here to up the ante just a little bit more, and it's like, okay, whatever. Plus, the show did a horrible job of explaining why he wanted to do what he was doing.
Yeah.
The only thing he ever said was, "I'm tired of working for scumbags."
Mhm.
Really, that was it.
Yeah, it definitely needed a clearer vision. It definitely needed some better writing. It definitely needed not to have the slowest speeder chase in all of Star Wars.
Yes, and
And the Power
the-
Ranger
the-
color.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the flashbacks were kind of shown out of sequence. So a lot of times you'd be watching something and then there would be a flashback. And though it did tell the story of what was happening with them, with the Sand People and stuff, a lot of times those didn't really have anything to do with what the hell was actually going on with the story.
I needed one more episode with the Sand People.
Yeah.
I needed one more episode because it felt like, all right, he's a slave to the Sand People, and all of a sudden he's like leading the Sand People, or I don't know. It felt like I needed.
It was
just a
Dances
little
with
more.
Wolves on Tatooine.
It
Yeah,
really
I
was.
wanted a little more of that. That was one of my favorite parts of the show.
Mm-hmm. Like him doing the Vision Quest, him making his gaffy stick, like all that. I was all about that. And
But it didn't have any real cohesiveness
Right.
with the rest of the show. It was
well,
like-
and it's like, okay, yeah, I felt like it was a disjointed narrative. It's another one of those that I could have re-edited it to be 2 episodes shorter and tell the same story better.
Yeah,
and that
I
appears to be
agree.
the future of
I
what they're
liked
doing.
it, but it could have been so much better.
Um,
Still had fun with it.
So while we're on the subject of Disney, and I think before we go to Roe talking about Star Wars Land, can we take a moment to acknowledge the Indiana Jones 5 trailer?
Eh,
Yeah.
I saw it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. The last movie I was burned with, and now Disney's running it, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't got a real good track record with franchises and legacy for them. They're great at taking new characters and making new stories within those realms. But as far as legacy stuff, they just, I don't know. Maybe they learned the lessons from Star Wars.
This is just one franchise. I can we just let it die?
Yeah.
Give it like 10 years after Harrison Ford's death, and then maybe go for a reboot. But let's just let it go.
Well, and honestly, I don't know if it's just because it's the only one I ever saw in theaters, but to my mind, Last Crusade is the pinnacle of the franchise.
And that's that would have been a great endpoint. If we never got anything else with Harrison Ford as this character, or this character in general, and that's where we ended it, you end on a high point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have minded if they went back and did some more like Young Indiana Jones stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I am excited for this. I don't know why. I am excited for this, and in a way I wasn't excited for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like everything I saw about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I kind of knew from the beginning that it was gonna be terrible. But this feels different. Like, I don't know why it feels different. And I don't know if it's just because they brought back John Rice Davis. I don't know if it's they made the conscious decision that even though it's the 60s, there's still going to be Nazis and he's still going to be fighting Nazis. But it just, I don't know, something feels good about this. I'm excited for it. And maybe it's just, you know, it doesn't take a lot. You just show me Harrison Ford fucking around with the whip and to the John Williams Raiders March, and my heart's there. Maybe I'm just a cheap thrill. But I've got a good feeling about it.
Oh, hopefully you're right.
I hope you're right. I hope I'm eating my words. I hope I finish watching this movie and go, all right, Indiana Jones 6, here we go. But we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm very pessimistic.
And you know, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the trick to it, is like expect nothing and be surprised.
Going back to Andor.
Yeah,
that's exactly my feelings on Andor. Low expectations. Wasn't looking forward to it. Was way more looking forward to the next project over this one.
Right.
But was very happily entertained.
That's how I felt about with the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Went into it with zero expectations, figured, it'll be okay, and it blew my mind.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Just a quick note here, listeners. This is the part of the podcast where we started talking about Rojan's trip to Star Wars Land. Unfortunately, his microphone was cutting in and out, and there was not much we could do with the quality. So it's the best we've got, and I hope you enjoy it. So yeah, you went to Star Wars Land.
Star Wars Land. We got there bright and early when the park first opened because I wanted to get on the main ride right off the bat. I didn't want to be waiting in line all day for it because it lines up very fast, etc. Of course, we get there. There is a line of people dressed as First Order officers completely blocking it off, saying the ride is temporarily closed, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, of course, because you got to walk all the way to the back of Disney Movie Studios to get to it.
Oh,
it's just past
bullshit.
the old Star Wars. What's that?
I said that's some bullshit.
Well, it is what it is. You know, it was happening a lot there. Rides were going and breaking down left and right and stuff when I was there. But I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll just go walk around and look at the rest of the park here. And it was because you walk in there. There's a X-Wing, a full-scale, life-size X-Wing parked right there. You can just walk up to it. And it's like, damn, this is really, really cool. Sure, in front of that, you keep on walking, and there's a couple of a garage. Like the whole area really did feel like you were in Star Wars. It was beautiful. Like it was just the coolest fucking thing to be able to go, oh my God, there is a X-Wing fighter. So then you keep on walking, and they've got like this little market area that you can walk through that's got a couple of these like little places you could eat, these little vendors. The bathrooms, even the bathrooms, when you walked into the bathrooms, they look like the way you would expect a bathroom to look in. There's really no way I could describe. It looked everything. It was like going in through a city on Tatooine. Everything was worn. It had the Star Wars look to it, etc. And even the little things like over in the corners, like where the junk dealers and stuff, like there's these fake junk dealer shops and stuff that you like, there's nobody at, but the light covers are made from the tops of R2-D2 units. You know, it looks like somebody was taking all of these parts and doing different things with them because that's what they had there. And you've got the sound effects going over your head, like of starships flying over, because it's supposed to be a spaceport. So you walk around another corner, and there's this stage there it's got Kylo Ren's shuttlecraft. They used to do this show. From what I was told, they're not doing it anymore, but it's like, wow, that's really cool. You know, you see the stuff. And then you go around the final corner, and there in front of you is a life-size, full-scale Millennium Falcon, which it was really funny because it was me and my wife. There was this Asian couple. I'm assuming they were Japanese. And they had masks and stuff on. And then there was another guy, and all of us just stopped when we looked at it. Like instantly, we all just stopped, and all of us were like, whoa.
Yeah.
'Cause it's the fucking Falcon in front of you.
It's that thing you've seen in movies and just walking up to it in real life.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know. I'm assuming you can't like get up and touch it.
No, not really. No, they've got stuff locked around it and blocking it and stuff like that. But you can, like, where it overhangs, like, you can walk underneath parts of it, but at no point can you walk up and actually touch it. But we were like, all of us, like, we just left our wives and we all ran up, like, get pictures, blah blah, and we were all kids, and it was really weird because, like, the Japanese people, they couldn't speak any English at all, but for that brief moment, we were all united in Star Wars, and they were trying to get pictures in front. I'm like, walking. Do you want me to take a picture? Like, I'm pointing to the ship, making the camera click gesture, and I'm pointing to me, I'm pointing to them. And like, oh yeah. And I'm like, okay, go on up. So they go up there and they get pictures in front of the Millennium Falcon, and then they took pictures of me and my wife in front of the Millennium Falcon. The other guy, his wife was like, come on, you look silly right now, because we were just like, oh my God, and I'm like, this is why we're here, I'm like, this is it. We've waited our whole lives for something like this, and now we're here, this whole park. And then they got the shop that you walk into, which is they had lightsabers there. I almost bought one. I came real close to it, and I almost bought Princess Leia's lightsaber. And the only real reason I think I didn't was because I'm like, how am I going to get this damn thing home?
Yeah.
Because but
especially
I'm pretty
flying.
sure, because I listened to a podcast where someone went, and they have a shipment option where you can buy it and walk out with it, or buy it and then they'll immediately send it to you.
They don't. I asked the woman at the counter, I'm like, if I buy this, do I have a way of shipping it back? She goes, we don't here, but you can go to such and such location, blah, 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 and they will ship it there. And then I started clicking in my head. I'm like, well, I'm paying, like, the Princess Leia one was $165 just for the hilt. And then the blade, I think, was an additional $60 or something like that. And it comes in a really cool, nice case and everything. And in retrospect, I'm glad I didn't buy it, but I'll get into that later on too, because there's some defective ones that they made that they're selling for much cheaper right now, because the brass or the gold apparently comes off very easy. But anyhow, they had Kylo Ren's, they had Luke Skywalker's, they had the busted Luke Skywalker one from the last movie, they had Palpatine's, they had Windu's, like, they pretty much had everybody's there. They had Cal Kestis's there. They didn't have any of Ezra's there.
Ooh,
the
Kyle
little
Kestis
trainer
is. I've seen some pictures. I kind of like that one.
It's cool. It was really cool. And I ended up just getting, like, a coffee mug. But the thing that I had to laugh at was ice cream maker data carrier that was in The Empire Strikes Back, that you could actually buy that there. And I'm holding it and I'm laughing my ass off. And my wife's like, what are you laughing about? I'm like, this is an ice cream maker. She goes, you can make ice cream. Like,
it's a Hamilton Beach ice cream maker.
Yeah, that they tweaked up and did some stuff to. And I'm like, no, there's a joke behind this, that it's actually, and I'm like, you wouldn't understand if I tried to explain it. And the woman that worked there heard me talking about it, and she was trying to explain it to my wife. And my wife's like, yeah, whatever, let's just get out of here, but I'm like, I didn't want to leave. I ended up going back there again the next day. We went back again for something else. And then we went on we didn't go on the Millennium Falcon ride because simulated motion gives me real. And that's what that motion ride is. It's a simulated motion ride. But we did go on to the Rise of the Resistance ride. That ride is amazing. That ride is unlike anything I've ever seen. Like, I don't even want to spoil it, but there is a part in there. It's really amazing. So you go on, they load you into this shuttle, the doors close behind you, the thing moves or whatever, and then you've got, like, an Admiral Akbar Mon Calamarian piloting the ship, and he's talking to you and stuff. They've got another area where there's a Poe Dameron's X-Wing fighter sitting out there, and that fires up, and BB-8's in the back of it, because you kind of go outside for part of the ride. And then the doors open back up, and you're inside of a Star Destroyer, and you're in the hangar of the Star Destroyer, and you're really not expecting it, because you just walked into this thing and now you walk out and you're someplace else. It's actually an elevator that takes you down. But when you walk into this area, there's TIE fighters and stuff in there, and there's all these stormtroopers in front of you, and everybody just stops because you're not expecting it. So they got these. It's a very submersive ride where it's
kind
of
immersive,
like live action.
not submersive. You're not underwater.
Correct. I'm sorry. But they've got all these people that are in first order uniforms that are ordering you around, telling you, stand on this dot right here. You're going to be interrogated, blah, 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 blah. And then the ride just goes insane. Like, there's really no way I can put it. The carts that you ride in and going through the ride and the things you see in it are absolutely amazing. there's a part where like a lightsaber comes cutting through the roof at you, and there was a lot of stuff in that ride. How there's certain things in there that they did that I can't figure out how they did. Like you're standing by a wall, and then all of a sudden the wall just blows away, and it's not there anymore. But there's no pieces or anything on the ground. Whereas a second ago there was a wall there. And I don't know, like when you see it, you're like, how the hell did they do that? There's some of the stuff when you look at it, okay, I can figure out how they did that. But there's some stuff in that ride that's just really next gen. Like, what just happened? How did that blaster bolt go flying over my head? Or how did that wall blow up and just disappear? And there's nothing there now. And, because they know as soon as you walk out that the ride has to ready back up for the next group of people going through. So in all, I would give it a 10 out of 10. The only problem I had with it is that I just wish it was bigger. It's a small back corner of the park, and I really wish it was larger. I wish there was more in there. We ate at one of the restaurants, and the restaurant was okay. But, I got you your little bottle of Coca-Cola, which is a thermal detonator.
Oh,
and that's the only place they sell them.
I was going to say, that was when we thought we were going to record a week ago, I had used that to make myself a specialty cocktail, which I dubbed the Tatooine Negotiator. Mm-hmm. So it was, you take that, and then you take a tiny airline bottle of spiced rum that you probably have to smuggle into Disney, and it's spiced rum, so smuggled spice. And then you pour it into the thermal detonator, and there is your Tatooine Negotiator.
Every form of bottled beverage they serve there is all Star Wars oriented. Like the Dasani water has a special bottle. The Sprite bottle was special. That's the only one I didn't get was the Sprite. I got a bottle of Diet Coke for the wife, and I got a bottle of Coke for me. And I went back again the second time I went back. That was when I bought your Coca-Cola, and I'm like, I got to buy John a Coke. I'm like, I have to he's got to have one of these, just because I know you're a collector of oddball stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, it was, when you were talking about Star Wars Land, it reminded me about a quote from Neuromancer when he's talking about the big satellite free side where there's all the casinos and everything. And they said, so basically Star Wars Land is just a tube that they push tourists through, and there's a fine mesh that keeps all the money and then just pushes the tourists out the other side. And I have a feeling that that's kind of what Star Wars Land is. It's just a way to get money from you.
I will happily give them the money.
All the money.
I really want to go.
Same.
I would go back and pay money for it again.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And that's just it. I'm just going to sit around Star Wars Land and, take 1,000 photographs of every little detail on the Millennium Falcon and all the little details of all the buildings and then go back to my house and 3D print models of them and paint them up.
The attention to detail is spectacular. It really, there's a restaurant there where it's like a barbecue kind of, and they've got this thing set up in front of it where it's a speeder, like a big, either an engine from a ship or a speeder or something like that. And they've got these fake rotisserie meats that are roasting underneath it. And it looks like they're really there roasting. It's special steam that looks like smoke and stuff. But you're looking at it, you're like, that's a speeder motor, or that's like, you're looking real closely at something else and you're like, that's a speeder from the Han Solo movie, or, that's this droid, or that's that, or
oh my god,
it's just all the
I just realized that somewhere in Star Wars Land is going to be a full-size copy of the Universal Greebly, the little model part from, I believe it comes in the Tamaya Anzio Annie model kit, but it's this weird part with 4 little circles and a dome that they put on almost every Star Wars ship they made, and they call it the Universal Greebly. And I bet somewhere in Star Wars Land there's a full-size version of the Universal Greebly.
Very possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Very possibly. So yeah, it's great. Go. If you can go. The resort, I've heard not so good things about. It's still fun, but it's ridiculously expensive and it's not doing very well. But if you have the chance, go to the park. to go to Hollywood studios and go back there and see that. And make sure you go with somebody who's cool with Star Wars, that gets it as much as you do, so they're not going to be like, okay, we need to get out of here and go over to Toy Story Land now or whatever, you know.
See, the only thing I heard negative about the resort is, like, it's cool that you're in this immersive experience, but there's like only one storyline. Like, originally they played it off that there would be multiple storylines that you could involve yourself in, and right now there's just the one. So it's like everybody's on, and it's like, damn it, no. I don't want to help the Jedis escape. I want to turn people into the Empire.
And it's not Empire, it's all First Order. It's all stuff from the last 3 Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
There's no real legacy stuff in there. The main villain in there is Kylo Ren, and that's whole story.
Which I'm really kind of wondering how much longer that's going to be. Like, I really feel like at some point there's going to be a big, like, oh, we're shutting it down for 6 months and reopening it, and it's all going to be like Mandalorian.
I was just
it's
about
already
to say,
starting to happen.
I would not be surprised if, like, the next attraction that they add to it is something to do with the Mandalorian or something to do with Boba Fett. One of the
it writes the checks right there. I mean, imagine instead of, so you have what you can go in here and make a lightsaber, I'll go in here and make your own specialty Mandalorian helmet. I mean,
you can get your shoulder pad and you choose your clan crest on it.
Oh yeah, I mean, who's not going to pay that?
It's already in the works. That they're already beginning to figure out how to put that stuff together and how to change things. But yeah, that'll probably be the next major, because they're slowly but surely phasing stuff out. There were things that would happen in the start. There were events that don't happen there anymore that they used to do, but that they don't have come out anymore. So they're kind of they're in the same pattern that the Star Wars movies are right now. They're kind of waiting to figure out where they're going to take it, or where they're going to take it to, or whatever. But the resort is all new Star Wars. There's no old stuff in it. But that's a debate. That's a conversation for another show, because we got to wrap this up.
Oh, dude, I will say though, I think there is a huge opportunity for the resort to use your turn of phrase, Rojan, to course correct into an Andor story. Like that style of, you're all on the ship, and then all of a sudden ISB agents come in, and it's like trying to track down the rebel operative. And I think there's potential there.
I can see it.
Yeah. But
like anything with Star Wars, just give everybody as many options as you can.
Exactly. But you're right.
At this point, they have to, because they've created so much. So anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just about to throw it back to you guys to wrap it up. Jake, where can everybody find you in the world?
Pretty much the only place I'm on social media wise is a group called Jake and Tom Conquer the Group. The show may be put to bed, but the group is still out there.
The community lives on, and you're always welcome in the guest host chair here.
I love it every chance I get.
Rojan, what's going on with you?
You can find me here, or you can find me at Project Archivist. I've just recently found that all of my shows have been pulled off of YouTube, however, copyright content, because I use a lot of music in the show, and they pulled them down, which I really. It's been quite a bit since I've released a new episode. They are in the works. I'll be recording new stuff coming next week, and then I've got about 4 shows that are falling into place after that. It's just been a matter of sitting them down and getting it recorded. But it didn't record right, so it had to go to the great scrap pile in the sky. But it was kind of expected, because it had been a while since I'd been behind my microphone and my equipment. So, but yeah, you can find there. You can find me over at the Cinema Labad Facebook group, which is a group for B-rate classic movies, horror movies, stuff like that. And you can also find me on the Project Art for the Weird and the Strange.
Oh, I sent one to you, and I think you and I need to sit down and watch it. Die Naked for Satan.
Yeah, I found that. That's on my list to watch.
You got to call me up French when you watch that one.
Well, I'm going to be watching it probably when I go down south with my buddies, but when I get back from that and the weather warms up, I've got a projector just for hosting bad cinema parties in my backyard. So I will gladly rewatch it if I can. That is a French porn horror movie, which that was horror. They were a combination of horror movies and porn movies, because there actually is real sex going on in that movie, unless you get the American version where that's been edited out, and then the story makes no sense at all. But I guess it doesn't in the first place. So yeah, I've got that. That is in the works to happen.
All right. And you can always find me at the Old Nerds Drinking Facebook group. Come for the podcast, stay for the memes. And with that...
End of line.
Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
German? Forget it, he's rolling.
And it ain't over now.
So, what's the plan? Take Carl, go to Mum's, kill Phil, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
Might as well write him off.
Let's close up the bridge. Let's get out of here. Close it up. Lights out.
Where are you headed, cowboy?
Nowhere special.
Nowhere special. I always wanted to go there.
We're going streaking! Yeah!
All right, move on. Nothing to see here. Please disperse.